I've been thinking for a while of making a book, which is a logbook of books that you've read for children in primary school, elementary school. This is quite a difficult project because it's got to be for girls and boys, and they have different ideas. Girls tend to be bigger readers than boys, but I want to encourage boys to be as big readers as girls. And I thought of doing an ancient spell kind of book with little locks and keys. There wouldn't really be locks and keys, it would just be a drawing. But that just seemed a little too obvious somehow. And then, I don't know if you can see here, there's kind of a rabbit. I was thinking of having a rabbit sort of reading a books, and some kind of fairy tale kind of thing. But I don't want it to be age specific either. As soon as you put fairy tales in there, then 10, 11-year-old children aren't going to be interested. So I wanted it to be not bland, but not age specific and not sex specific. And I was kind of looking around for inspiration, and I just kind of came up with this kind of idea of a foresty kind of thing. Let me zoom out. And I started thinking of this kind of weird forest. I thought I'd make it dark and mysterious. It was my thought. And what I have come up with is these kind of green fronds, which could be trees. And there's a little gap here, and my plan is then to put these books coming out of the forest, and they're just kind of flying away, and they kind of go off like butterflies. And they're not going to be specific books either. so it's kind of mysterious. That's kind of what I'm trying to make it. Mysterious and exciting. And these are kind of little sketches that I've made of kind of ideas. And then these are actually the bits of artwork. This is the actual bit of artwork that I've used to make this here. And I put this all together on Photoshop. I coloured them in on Photoshop. And then I've kind of placed this one element here on top of itself with shadows and things like that to build this up, leaving this little gap down here for books to come through. And on the insides, I've been sort of thinking and planning all the things that you'll want to have on the page. So you can have on page 1, you've got to have this book belongs to, on the date started, date finished. I'm going to have little books here and 1 or 2 kind of flying around in the sky. We've got this introductory page, which I've been writing and rewriting to kind of enthuse children. The quickest way to get smart and be successful is to read a lot of good books. Luckily, there are millions of books just waiting for you to pick them up and read them. I've been planning the insides here so that each page has got title, author, illustrator, the date the book was started, the date finished. This book was about, my favourite bit was, star rating and number of pages and things like that. Up at the top, I have a little motivational quotes about reading. And I've been sort of searching around looking for really good quotes. Some of them I've had to make a little easier to read for children because some of them are in quite old-fashioned language. And it's coming along really nicely. And I'm now going to start doing this cover. So here I have my light table, which is kind of an LED thing. And this is the plan I have of the drawing that I want to make. Now I'm putting my watercolour paper over the top. I'm going to put little markers here so I know that it registers. And I got myself a brand new rotring ticky graphic for this job, so it's nice and fresh. And the paper is called CS2. People often ask me about what paper I use, and I don't know if you can get the stuff anymore. I know the factory kind of closed down a long time ago, and I just happen to have kind of a quantity of it hiding under my bed, and I don't know what I'll do when I run out. But I just really like this paper, so don't go out trying to get hold of it. I know somebody said recently they were making it again, but I don't know if it's the same paper. And I'm making these old-fashioned books, old-fashioned hardbacks. There's something title on there, and I'm not going to give them titles because I want you to imagine what's inside them. And these books have legs. And I've thought quite a lot about, shall I give them faces? And I decided not to, because I just want them to be books. But they do have little legs. I don't know, people often ask me about, being creative. And they say, I can see the ideas in my head, but I don't know how to draw them on paper. And this is kind of what's going on here. I can see all this in my head, and I suppose I've been drawing long enough that I know how to just do it and get it down on paper. But that is all experience. And I think, if you want to, if you've got ideas in your head, you just got to do it and get a pencil and draw what you can. But next time when you want to draw, do some practice in between, learn how to draw stuff. And if you learn how to draw other stuff, then when it comes to drawing the thing that's in your head, you will find it easier to do. Does that make any sense? And all that, this whole design and everything, I don't know, it sort of comes from experience, but it's also that I think this is what I want to do, partly, but also I just kind of feel this is the right thing to do. I might be completely wrong. Everyone will look at it and go, what? We don't like that cover. And then I might have to go and think about it and put another one on there and redesign the whole thing. But there we go. So my aim here is to get a feeling for these books having kind of come out of the forest and they're just taking off. I know some people will be watching this and go, oh man, that's cheating, you're tracing. And I've been over this again and again on this channel. It's not cheating. I've spent hours and hours thinking about this and working on this. I've planned this. I've done the plan, and now I'm putting the plan into action. And it's just not cheating. If you think Michelangelo didn't plan and trace, and Leonardo da Vinci, when they came to do their finished drawings, their sketchbooks will be full of just free drawings, but when you come to do your finished drawings, get it right. And this is going to be the back of the book, so I'm going to put a barcode on there, a bit of blurb. And here all I have is kind of the legs and the angles of the legs to put expression into these characters. Characters is what they are. And so I'm making the most of the legs. Now I'm going to be wanting to paint on this surface, so I'm going to use a piece of paper to rest my hand on, so that I don't get all the kind of sweat from my hand and oils and things like that on the paper. And this is going to be a kind of a picture book, just a thinner kind of landscape picture book. And I think I'm going to just have a kind of a picture of a forest, but this is going to reflect the bottom pages of the insides. So it's going to be like trees. And I'm using this really, really simple device for trees. Well, they could be leaves. I'm seeing them as trees. And here we want to have it feeling like it's just taking off. So we'll have 1 foot off the ground. And the other just still just touching. Right, so it's just taken off. And like I say, I've only got the feet to kind of express this. And now the pages will kind of fold open. And I'm going to get a bit of curve in there as well. To give that kind of butterfly feel. And I just hope a certain percentage of kids will go, oh, cool, I get it. And we'll want to read loads of books. Why am I so keen on reading? Well, for a start, that's what I do. I write children's books. But I don't just write children's books, because I want to write them. I write children's books because I want them to read them, because I want them to learn to read. And I want kids to learn to read because that is the key to not just your education, but it's the key to your life. And you go into prison and you'll find most of those people in prison can't read. And that's partly what's got them there. If you can't read, you're not totally a part of society. You just don't know what's going on. And I think, when I write my books, there's a little part of me that's kind of thinking, I hope somebody's going to really like this book and get the reading bug, and it'll kind of get them out of the future that they might have ended up in. Books change lives. We're going to have a leg coming out here. And what about e-books, you might say? Well, that's a very good point. I think kind of apps and tablets and stuff like that, Kindles, I think they're a distraction for kids who are learning to read. Learning to read is a serious business. And if you've got something there that's not really a book, but is actually a shopping device, which is what a Kindle is, and you're being distracted. And if you're reading on an app which is actually reading to you, so you don't have to do the reading, you're not learning to read. You're learning to be entertained, which is a different thing. I'm going to make this a book on volcanoes. These are the kind of diagrams you see inside books on volcanoes. So now they're starting to get a bit further away, so getting less. They're kind of going out of focus a bit, aren't they? I suppose. It's a way to describe it. So the detail doesn't need to be quite so detailed. I don't think it's a particularly new or original idea that books can fly, and that when they open up they kind of look like birds or butterflies or anything. I think, but in my own way, in my own style, I just kind of think I'm doing it differently. I hope I'm doing it differently, and just making it that bit more interesting. I know some people get really obsessed by originality, and they want to be original, which I can understand. But it is extremely hard to be original, and as Sir Isaac Newton put it, we all stand on the shoulders of giants, and people have done that a little bit before. They've stood on somebody else's shoulders and done something new, and mostly originality and creativity is kind of building on other people's ideas or things that you've seen that inspire you, and you just add your little twist. And I think in terms of posterity and everything, maybe you aren't totally original, but maybe your thing that you do will inspire somebody else to be totally original. So now it's time to start painting. And I'm using watercolour, and while the watercolour is still wet, I'm dropping kind of darker tones in where I need the shadow and a build up thickness. And I've been thinking about what colour to do shoes, and then, you know, eventually it's obvious you do the shoes the same colour as the book, really. And I've just this moment decided that they should have little stripy tights. I'll just make them look a little bit weird. I've got my board here at a tilt of about 20 degrees, and to be able to get the camera there and everything, it's really quite far away from me. I'm having to squeeze in underneath the camera lights. It's a bit strange. I'm sure some people would spend far more time and effort worrying about the where the lights are and all that kind of thing. And this is a kind of a fantasy drawing, and the background, the trees, are a complete fantasy. They're a two-dimensional kind of fantasy, and these books are kind of floating on the top of that two-dimensional fantasy. I'm just going to leave that right there. And so in the end, I don't think that the lighting matters that much, and I think maybe on Photoshop I will add some shadow in later. You can see I'm kind of working this colour in, and it's so much easier to work it in when it's still wet, but under these lights it's drying quite quickly, so I'm getting this kind of texture. I'm having to keep washing over the whole thing to keep it under control. Now here we have this kind of yellow and the pale kind of against each other, so what I'm going to do is have a little bit of shadow on the book behind. Like that. And then also I think I probably need a little bit here as well. Just to kind of, I could do that bit in Photoshop, but I'm not going to, because I think it'll be more subtle in paint. Now I've accidentally painted all those legs in yellow, so what I'm going to do is make these stripes in a kind of a browny tinge. Like that instead. And now it's time to start working on these things that have started flying. That comes a really tricky bit, is what colours to choose. I don't think I'm a very good colourist. You know, some people paint and use colour and, oh my goodness, and they use weird combinations of colours to produce new things, and one colour against another, and I don't know whether my brain isn't kind of quite fixed for being able to do that or something, but I admire them so much. I kind of go pink, green, blue, red and I don't seem to get into those subtleties of colour. Which is probably why I like drawing in black and white so much. And I think I feel more comfortable drawing in black and white. The background is all green, so I want to avoid greens as much as possible. I think red and blue is kind of a main kind of colour for hardback books, isn't it, really? Well, this one looks more like a paperback. I think we can have something a bit more orangey colour in that one there. And also the smaller the drawings get, the little illustrations get, and the further away they appear, then you can be a bit more free. I was going to say slack, but I don't think slack is the word, just kind of a bit more free and just sort of simple. Because the further things goes away, then your eye sort of doesn't see that detail. So it's not that it doesn't matter. It's just that if you have too much detail, then you're going to be having this weird kind of having everything in focus, which isn't how we see the world. I could do that in colour, but I think this is a black and white book. I'm going to have the covers of my volcano book in yellow, I think, for the kind of fire. And shoes in yellow, but I think I'm going to do red stripes on this one instead of the that I had brown before, so I'm just going to make this a bit more yellowy, orangey. This would be an illustration of all the magma inside the volcano. And a little gummy shoe bottom. Sole, that's the word I'm looking for. Off camera I am just painting in all the soles of the feet. Oh, there's a tiny little feet. What happened to them? What kind of a book has tiny little feet? People ask me, where do you get ideas? And you see, that's how it happens. You make a funny little mistake in a drawing like that. I've done those funny little feet, and then I say, oh, what kind of a book has funny little feet? And somewhere in that question lies an interesting answer. If you get a really good answer, it could turn into a book or a poem or another drawing or something. I don't know. And you see, that has now got me thinking. And so I've got my little notebook out, because if I don't do this now, then I'll forget all about it. And see, if it became a story, then I would have to then start putting little faces on the books, wouldn't I? Like that. And then I'm going to put a question mark here, just to remind myself that I'm deciding what kind of a book would have very small feet. And I'm going to put thought. What kind of book has very small feet? It's just one of those things that goes into your little sketchbook. And nothing may ever come of it, but then maybe something will. Well, as you can see, I've changed the typeface for the book. What I had there before was just a kind of a place filler. I found this typeface I really like. It's called Love You Like a Sister. It was designed by Kimberly Geswine. And so I've changed that, and I'm kind of really happy with that. This little red book down at the bottom now, he's kind of hiding and just creeping out. So I've sort of cut that out of the original, put that on its own layer, and you can see I can switch it off. So he's hiding behind these sort of palm leaves, trees, whatever they are. And then there are lots of these leaves all kind of piled on top of each other. Each with their kind of shadows on top of each other again. And I've put you can see the top layer of books, I've made them closer to the trees, so they've got a bit of shadow on them there. And the lower layer of books, which I'll switch off there and switch back on, they don't have a shadow, so they're kind of further away and kind of closer to us. And that's kind of basically it. I'm happy with it. It's all off at the printers. And I'm just waiting for my copies. Well, I hope you enjoyed that long rambling video, and some bits of it in there might have been useful to you. And congratulations for lasting this long. If you have, why not subscribe to the Shoo Rayner drawing channel? Go and have a look at how to draw children's book characters, or have a go at the mystery drawing. If you want to know about the book, go to my website, click on the link, and you'll be able to find all about it and how you can buy it and things like that if you want a copy. In the meantime, keep drawing, keep reading, and I'll see you next time. You take care now. Bye-bye.